Welcome to the program. Now, security has been beefed up at major Kenyan airports following intelligence reports that Al-Shaabab militants are planning to stage attacks. A leaked internal memo shows up to 11 Al-Shaabab suicide bombers have been trained ready for the mission. According to the memo from the Kenya Airports Authority Security, the planned attacks to be staged end of February and early March will target domestic flights. The memo warns that the planned attacks by the terrorists against Kenyan airports may paralyze operation at the vital installations with far-reaching ramifications to national security. The Kenya Airports Authority officials have just finished addressing members of the press on the leakage of the memo. Here is part of that interview that took place moments ago from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And right now we are joined by a security expert, Belano Kilu, just to tell us what this actually shows. And Belano, if you can tell us, on what grounds would such crucial information leak out to the public?
Well, Sharon, in this particular case, this is obviously a breach of the security protocols and procedures that is internal to the Airports Authority. And this leaked obviously because there is some form of failure just in terms of process. So at an individual level, it means that an individual who was privy to this information then got a bit excited and shared with somebody probably on social media, just took the photo with the phone and then shared that out. Unfortunately, the negative implications are that it then can tend to cause a mass panic, which is not the intended route for this particular type of information. So it's critical that it is managed properly, number one.
And as you say, rightly say there, this kind of information is bound to cause mass panic. And what would the airport security, how should they react to such a scenario?
Well, the first thing is, of course, to reassure the general public that the airport security is up to par to the standards of any international airport globally. And I must say that in terms of Kenya's airport security, it is above par across most of African airports, and it is in line with standards of international airports. However, it is very important for you to understand that the negative elements of society in the form of terror do attempt different types or change their strategies in terms of trying to cause breaches in security. So this internal memo was meant to do two things. One, create awareness, and two, to scale up internal security within the airport to a higher level of sensitivity as well as proactivity. And in doing so, prevent such kind of attacks. This is not the first time that attacks have been made or attempted to have been made against Kenyan airports. The airports are normally prepared and are aware on a 24/7 basis about such kind of attacks or threats that would endanger the lives of Kenyan citizens. It's very important, of course, for the authorities now to manage this by giving out the correct information and sharing what steps or procedures, now that this information has leaked, have been taken to mitigate against such circumstances ever occurring.
And Belano, maybe lastly, what we have had over time with this kinds of situation is that when panic is raised among the members of public, that is exactly what such terrorists aim to achieve. What would be prudent reaction and actions from the members of the public to this case?
The members of the public would need to continue to do business as usual, to of course maintain awareness and report anything that they suspect in the airports or within the vicinities of the airports. If they suspect anything, to quickly report it to the nearest authorities. However, business as usual should continue at all airports because, of course, as you have already mentioned, it is the intention of the terrorists to try and upset business as usual and to try and create fear or to sow fear. Again, one of the best methods and the fastest methods of mitigating against this is simply the same thing, using technology. Using technology today, and we have that in place already, especially at the airport, but using even more layered technology, it's pretty easy right now to actually deter such type of attacks. And Kenya is actually quite advanced in terms of the deployment of such type of technologies. Now, these, of course, we might not be able to mention in terms of the discussion that we're having right now, because we wouldn't want everybody to be aware of what's being used, but simply to go ahead and reassure the public that steps have been taken. The details cannot be shared. However, steps have been taken to up the game in terms of airport security and general security of Kenyan citizens across the whole country, and then bring the stability back to the general public.
Right. Thank you very much. Belano Kilul there talking to us about that breached memo that has reached the public concerning information on a memo from the Kenya Airports Authority about a planned attack. And Kilul there just urging members of the public not to panic, as the Airports Authority are now applying international standards of such cases.